Now this is it. This is an SP12, and this was the first sampler I ever owned. It's pretty cool, and I loved it because I could sample. I never could before, and I had a small studio that I worked out of my apartment. I had a basement apartment in Queens, New York. And so I was like, wow, I'm gonna learn how to use this thing because I saw another guy use this thing. His name was Paul C. And I had also met Larcher Fester in the same studio. We were in Queens, New York City, in the Music Building, which is a building that's famous in New York City, or was famous in New York City. Anyway, so this is a thing we use to sample with. But before this, the company Emcee Systems had made the first Emcee device a couple of years before that even came out. And this is this pretty big sample. Now, the big thing about this is that this was like $8,000. Maybe that was like about maybe six. But this one was $8,000 for sure. And every studio had it. But to have that to do rap music was like crazy. And then rap music was just beginning. And what we did in rap music was just have a DJ. Now, I'm recording this to a tape, right? And so as I'm recording this, then the rapper is rapping on the next track I do. And the next track, someone could do some shots or whatever. We stop and play it back. And that's how we recorded. And it was pretty efficient until we were able to afford a real sampler like the SP1200, which is a really great machine in the beginning because it saved so much time if the DJ wasn't correct. And we also recorded with drum machines. The guy could rap on a drum machine, and a DJ can cut over that and actually try to maneuver a beat around that. And that was cool too. And then Emcee Systems came out with this machine here, SP12. And it was a brilliant idea. And what I would like to do now is let Marco Alpert tell you what happened at Emcee Systems. Check this out.
So and the drumulator had pretty much died off, and we said, well, let's be the first 12-bit drum machine. It weren't 16-bit at all at that time. Let's be the first 12-bit drum machine. And we did a drum machine called the SP12, which really drew its look and its interface from the emulator 2 style, and I had done the interface on that as well. But let's put the ability for people to sample a sound or two of their own in it. So it had a complete set of sounds, as all drum machines did at that time in ROM, but we also put some RAM in that people could sample one or two drum sounds of their own to customize it. And this was a huge hit, but what people were telling us is, we want more memory, we want more of our own sounds. So we eventually expanded that to the SP1200, and what we did then was take out all the ROM and make it all RAM and put a little disk drive on it. So that and we delivered disks with sound. So if you wanted to use those stock sounds, you just put it in. But if you wanted all your own sounds, you had all the RAM for yourself. And what we saw people starting to do is sample not drum sounds, but instrumental loops, sampling other records and the like, and it became one of the first big tools of the rap and hip hop world. There was the SP1200, and over at Akai there was the MPC 3000. Where Roger Lynn is. I'm sure you've interviewed Roger Lynn, probably know that part of the story. But the SP1200 took off in a direction, it's a lot of people, when they find out that I designed the user interface for the SP1200, say, oh man, it's like, that was great. It was, the vision to open that up as a hip hop tool. And I have to acknowledge, we never imagined anyone would use it that way. I mean, it was totally that phenomenon we see over and over again, where you put a tool out there, and if the tool is flexible enough, creative people find new things to do with it that you never would have thought of.
You heard that? Creative people find things to do with something you never thought of. That's kind of hot. That was creative back then. We grabbed this machine. I used it everywhere I could, but first I learned the entire machine. I'd make sure I could sample anything before the record ended. I could sample it and remake the beat. That's hot. But then other guys were getting really good and getting famous because they had rappers who had contracts, like Pete Rock here. He got really good. He had made his projects work, and then he would have someone who's going to get famous, I guess. And then I also work with another guy named Large Professor. Now, this guy I got to give a lot of kudos to because he brought Q-Tip and them over to my studio once. We spent some time with them, and and that was Tribe Called Quest. And about a week later, a record comes out. I was like, amazing. But it's cool working with him. Large Professor is great, and working with this guy was always great. This is my man, and this is Easy Mo B, and he's bad. If you don't know this guy, he made a track for Craig Mack called, I forgot what it was called, but Craig Mack, and it was on Puffy's label. So it's pretty cool, but he had some dope ways of using the SP1200. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I love the machine. It was great, and I'm glad the new one's out. Dave, the same guy who made the first one for Emu, has a new one out, so I would get it if I was anybody to get it because it's going to sound the same probably. Should be no problems. Any questions, hit me up. I'll put the links below for the interview and whatever else. Peace.